Lee Greenberg. What's up, dude? How are you?
I'm doing super. How are you?
We're good. I had a hell of a morning, but we're good. I always like to kind of go in and check out what you've been tweeting about because it's always kind of an interesting ride. I wanted to start probably in a surprising place for you. I'm trying to get Steve Buckhantz to come on the radio with us this week and talk about John Wall. But I saw you kind of tweeted and mentioned Wall and his time in Washington. There were some really high highs.
There were. I mean, he was the number one overall pick. He was supposed to usher in a new era in Washington. You got to give a lot of credit to John Wall, who embraced the community and really looked the part of a franchise player. It just didn't work out. He just couldn't get things going here in Washington on a championship level. It was tough to get into the playoffs and then be competitive in the playoffs most of the time. He had Bradley Beal with him, but the sum of those just weren't equal to the parts. It just never seemed like the two could really form the nucleus that Washington needed. But John Wall from top to bottom had a solid career in Washington. And, I'm sure there's a lot of missed opportunities. Some you can probably blame him, some you can blame the organization. But, overall, getting a guy like John Wall, having him be here for as long as he was, having him be such a big part of the community, I think was a real bright spot for Washington.
But what was the reason things didn't work, you would think?
That's a great question. I believe that people thought Beal was a lot better than he was. A lot of people thought Beal was one of the top players in the NBA, and nothing really supported that. Like none of the non-traditional metrics ever supported that. And just having him and Wall, it was two things, I think. One was they weren't enough of a draw to bring other really good players here. Now, Wall kind of came up in the super team era, right, where it was LeBron and the Warriors and then, just these big-name players just chasing rings. And no one really wanted to come to Washington. So I think that was certainly part of it. But I just think, as I said, I think Wall separately was really good. I think Beal separately was really good. And just for whatever reason, the chemistry with the both of them just never gelled into anything more than a fringe playoff contender.
Didn't he make a comment about he wasn't there to be recruiting people? That could be a part of the reason, too.
Yeah, he just didn't seem like he wanted to be either didn't want to be part of a super team or just didn't want to be, like you said, a recruiter. I mean, you have to lobby, and it's tough, right? I mean, if you have, like, Kevin Durant asking you to go somewhere and LeBron James asking you to go somewhere and Steph Curry and then John Wall, I mean, I can kind of see his point. It seems almost futile to do that, right? There just wasn't – he just didn't have the gravitas around him or him himself to be that pull to get people. It was just – it was a tough market. It was a tough market to create super teams because we really only had – one, two, maybe three teams at that point that were true title contenders.
Yeah. Talking with our friend Neil Greenberg here on the Rude Guest Hotline. You can follow Greenberg's work at @ngreenberg. Neil, let's switch it over to football, man. I imagine you are knee-deep in kind of all of your charts and analysis and everything you look at going into the football season. What has been interesting? What has come to mind for you?
I'm really fascinated with this running back situation in Washington. That to me is an interesting storyline in terms of a lot of people thought like the running back position was back on track in terms of maybe not returning to its former glory, but certainly being seen as more veteran-driven, and then here we have like a young upstart kind of coming in and pushing out a guy that's been here a couple of years. The quarterback situations are fascinating, especially in Indianapolis, who really has to choose between the lesser of the two evils in Daniel Jones and Anthony Richardson. So I'm really just looking at those type of storylines to see, not only from like a fantasy football standpoint, but also like a real football standpoint. Who quarterback's so important. Like which of these young quarterbacks is actually going to take a step up and start to surprise people.
What do you make of the decision? A lot of I call them like football hipsters. Like there's a cottage industry of people trying to make sports more complicated so that they can talk down to people on social media. That's just like a reality of the level of snark in our discourse. But a lot of people are like, oh my God, how could they go with Jones? Richardson hasn't, Richardson just needs a chance. He's been in the league a couple of years now. He's been bad. At what point do we need to change our mindset that the coach, and I understand it's a self-preservation league, but he's going with Jones because he thinks it gives him a chance to win. I don't know that Jones is any good either, but you know what I'm saying? It's just odd how people view some of these things.
Yeah, it also comes down to here's what I look at. I mean, Anthony Richardson was a first-round pick, 4th overall a couple of years ago. Got to start in his second year. It didn't go great. We saw him a little bit in his rookie year. The fact that the organization is willing to move on for him for Daniel Jones, who really hasn't done much in the NFL, has been at the bottom of a lot of advanced metrics like QBR, PFF, et cetera. I mean, look, I'm going to defer to coaches in these type of situations. Anthony Richardson ain't the guy. You don't move on from a number 4 pick that quick if you have any sort of inkling that he could blossom into something really good, especially when you have a guy like Daniel Jones who, let's face it, is a known commodity at this point. So I applaud the organization for recognizing that, saying to themselves, even though he was a top pick, we're still not going to go with him. It's unfortunate for them that their plan B happens to be Daniel Jones, who probably isn't much better than Anthony Richardson.
Yeah.
You also mentioned your confusion or interest, I guess, in the Commanders' running back situation. From your viewpoint, removing kind of the emotions of B-Rob is a well-liked player, that you see B-Rob jerseys in the crowd, just this abrupt the departure hasn't been finalized yet, but what appears to be an abrupt departure for Brian Robinson.
Yeah, and this is a what have you done for me lately league. The organization sees what they have in the offense, and they know how good it can be. So they're kind of getting a Cliff Kingsbury guy in there, right? I mean, Bill, is an early down runner. That's kind of what Cliff favors. He's also a guy who probably has more upside than Brian Robinson at this point. He's got that big play burst, whereas Robinson is more of like a grinder. He's probably got, like I said, he's got a higher ceiling. He did really well, in college. And at the very least, Krosky Merritt has showed some flashes as a receiver. Brian Robinson has really just been typecast as a 2-down back. So it makes sense to kind of add that flexibility. But yeah, I mean, really abrupt. I want to say Ben Standig was like one of the first guys to even mention that this type of situation could be happening. I know a lot of people guffawed at it, but here we are.
Yeah, man, it was funny. I mean, we had Ben on, and we were kind of talking through it, and my stance hasn't really changed. I don't understand the necessity here. It seems I think Bill's a really exciting player. Eckler's really good. Maybe C-Rod can be better, but the dependability that Robinson gave you, I don't know that you just immediately recreate that. Mm-hmm. What did you think of the preseason game? It was very, very quick, limited work, right? But the offense did look fantastic.
Well, yeah, it was limited for Jaden Daniels, thankfully. I don't know what Cincinnati was doing throwing Joe Burrow out there for so long. But, yeah, I mean, they look good. You don't want to take too much away from it. I think that was a great timing of the offense because it kind of showed everyone like, hey, here's what we can look like. Terry McLaurin, maybe it's time for you to kind of join us here because, we can make this even better if you're a part of it. And, it looks good right now and kind of give him some FOMO a little bit. But, yeah, I thought it was a really good.
If I'm Terry, I'm like, you didn't throw the ball one time.
I'm sorry?
If I'm Terry, I'm like, you didn't throw the ball, so, I mean, it's not like you could throw it. So let's be
you weren't
real.
there. But, yeah, I mean, it's definitely, it's good to see that this offense is clicking. I think one of the big knocks on Washington from a lot of the, analysts like me around the league are, can they sustain that offense from year to year? What's the regression going to be for Jaden Daniels? And you like to see the offense clicking in preseason. It's kind of a catch-22, right? If they play well, it was just a preseason game against nobodies. If they don't play well, they can't even do anything against nobodies. But so it's always good to see the offense doing what it's supposed to be doing.
What'd you think defensively? I thought they did a really good job kind of getting after Burrow in that game. You mentioned it.
Yeah, and they had a lot of opportunities to do it. Look, the defense, I think, is the key to this whole thing. I think the offense is going to be good. I think Jaden Daniels is going to be good. But the defense really does have to not make every game a shootout. Like, you can't expect Washington to have to score 30 or more points a game in order to win. And you look at some of, like, the Vegas over-under numbers, they're expecting Washington to be, like, the biggest contributor to that total, to their totals for the season. I'll spare you the math details, but that's a function of Washington's offense being really good, being able to put points on the board, but also their defense being leaky and allowing points. So I think if the defense can be average, because a lot of people are expecting it to be probably below average, at least in the bottom third of the league, I think that's a big improvement, and that could be enough.
I've been doing this read with FanDuel about the possibility of picking your MVP and the champion of the league next year. I mean, at the end of this year, who do you think is going to win the MVP? Who do you think is going to win the Super Bowl?
That's a good question. I don't think there's going to be any surprise with the Super Bowl, right? Like Buffalo, maybe Kansas City, Baltimore, if they can, finally get through some stuff. And then you're just going to have to look at, the quarterbacks on those teams. I mean, like that's, typically the MVP choice. I think Josh Allen to go back-to-back is certainly doable considering the division and what they have in front of them. Lamar Jackson the same. I know I'm not breaking any ground here. But I tell you something. If Philadelphia can play well again and Jalen Hurts has a good season, because the knock on him has been he's a product of the system and, he doesn't always play at high levels, et cetera. If he could put together like a solid top-tier campaign and Philadelphia once again shows that they're one of the best teams in the league, I think Jalen Hurts is probably a guy I would definitely look at.
I like that, and he's kind of off the radar. I mean, maybe not off the radar, but not at the top of the list.
Nah.
It's interesting as we get closer and closer to this season. We haven't asked you about Terry McLaurin yet. It's possible he practices today. We'll all kind of find out together at 2 o'clock when they get on the field. Where do you stand on the Terry situation? At what point, Greenberg, do you think this impacts the season? Are we getting there? I mean, it's August 20th,
I think we're getting
right?
there, yeah. I think we're getting there because you want the reps. Jaden Daniels, as good as he was, is still only a second-year quarterback. You do have Deebo Samuel in the mix. Luke McCaffrey hasn't shown you anything, or at least you haven't shown that you have any sort of faith in him. So, yeah, you want to get him in there and get stuff going. I would say we're kind of quick to D-Day here. But I got to tell you, if I am Terry McLaurin, and if I don't have any, like, personal or familial ties to my agent, I think I'm looking for new representation, because you look at everything that's come out, like what he's asking for, what the landscape is, what his leverage is, I think that their camp truly misplayed their hand, like to a negligent degree almost, because he's under contract, the franchise tag, what the market's going to bear, and all these other things that are really against McLaurin's favor. You really do have to think about what type of advice is he getting for it to go this long and to make it this uncomfortable. If it was me, I truly believe that I would be looking for more representation if I wasn't the one driving it. Like, if that's the advice that I'm getting, then I have to say to them, hey, you know what, you completely misread this situation. I'm going to have to go in a different direction.
That's why I feel players at Terry's age and his experience have to know more about the game and more about the business side of it, because no 7-8 year player should be getting bad advice and not know it's bad advice.
Yeah, I mean, you can just look at what's happening, right? And I think the Cortland Sutton deal really should have been the end of it. Like, when that deal came through and it was obvious that 30-year-old wide receivers aren't getting paid a lot of money, or at least the money that McLaurin's camp was asking, even though he is a great teammate and leadership, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. Like, you have to look at it at some point and say, all right, you know what? Let's get this show going, and we'll just figure it out next year. But yeah, just really been a misread by the McLaurin camp.
It's going to be fascinating to watch. I mean, even just something as simple as if he's out here today, it's do you do any college football bets? You getting ready for college?
I have some like really weird over under win totals that I placed like 2 months ago. Those prices are gone. I only bet when the market comes out, because that's when it's at its softest. I don't have anything yet, but I'm working on a couple things where I should have a steady stream of some college stuff going forward.
Well, you know what we say. Text your boy.
Yes. Yes.
All right, Greenberg. Appreciate you, bud. Talk soon.
Man.
All right. Love you guys. Talk to you soon.
Peace.
That's our guy, Neil Greenberg, Washington Post. Give him a follow at @NGreenberg.